Have you ever thought about starting with 3D? Or maybe you've dreamed about learning visual effects. Maybe you've even just thought about getting into 3D art. 3D can look so daunting to get into, and it can be. That's why in today's video, we're looking into how to get you into 3D. My name is Nick, and I've been going to school for almost 2 years soon, learning how to create 3D and learning how to make games. Having experienced a lot of ups and downs when it comes to creating 3D, and already have been challenged in both easy and hard ways, it has really shaped the way I see 3D and my love for 3D. I've just begun my journey of becoming an independent game developer, and I really want to share what I've learned so far and help you get into 3D. There are a lot of different tutorials online. There's even a lot of YouTube videos showing how to make games in a really short amount of time. You have tutorials for Maya, Blender, Cinema 4D, Unreal Engine, Unity, Substance Painter, Substance Designer. It's a jungle out there with a lot of different programs. But when you don't know where to begin, which program to start, or even what programs does what, it can really be a struggle to get started, and that's what I want to help you with today. But the truth is, you only need to know a few of them. So in today's video, we're looking into the most used softwares and what you would want to use them for. Blender is an absolutely amazing piece of software. You can actually do almost everything in Blender. There are even some YouTube channels purely dedicated to covering YouTube tutorials on how to make different stuff in Blender. And the truth is, you can get really far with just knowing Blender. It's the jack of all trades. And the best part, it's totally free to use. The reason for why it's free is because it's an open source software, meaning that it's developed by the community. But Nick, what can I do in Blender? Well, the most obvious is creating 3D models. You can create basic 3D models like a replica of a hammer, or you can create full-blown CG scenes like Ian Hubert does, where every model in the scene is a 3D model. And have you ever seen somebody do sculpting? No, not that kind of sculpting. We're talking about digital sculpting. You can even do that in Blender. No need to get your hands dirty when you can sit safe and sound in front of your computer and doing digital sculpting. You can even do texturing in Blender, which is what makes your 3D models come to life. Blender has a really good system for giving your models the look you want it to have. If it's glass, it needs to look like glass. If it's metal, it needs to look like metal. If it's wall paint or rust, it needs to look like it. And you can apply all of these inside of Blender without ever having to leave the software. And of course, when you have your 3D model and it looks the way you want it to, it's important to show it off in a way that looks realistic. The easy explanation for what rendering is that it's visualization of data, and rendering is how we visualize it so we can actually see the finished product we made. Blender has the possibility to use what we call physical-based rendering, meaning that it calculates the light in the scene based on your model and your material in composition to the lighting setup. I know, it's a bit to take in, but don't worry. All you need to know is that this is how you make your model look great. There is a lot more you can do in Blender, like simulations and particle effects. You can even do animation, but these things are the most important things to know that you can do in Blender to get started. Where Blender is the jack of all trades, Maya is the king of hearts. As the industry standard, we can't ignore Maya. Blender is free, while Maya costs a lot of money, but for good reason. Maya has been around for a long time, and the knowledge behind it is really vast. Everything you can do in Blender, you can do in Maya. Modeling, sculpting, unwrapping and texturing, rendering, it can do it all. I would say that Blender is a bit better when it comes to sculpting though, but in the end that doesn't really matter, as the software we're looking at next is the industry standard for sculpting. So why use or learn Maya when Blender is free, you might ask? Well, as mentioned before, Maya is the industry standard, and if you have the possibility to get your hands on an educational license or have some money to spend, and your aim is to down the line actually work for an AAA studio or actually get into the industry, you might as well learn Maya right now. However, when that is said and done, Blender is free, and if all you're looking to do is get into 3D, then start using Blender. At the end of the day, 3D is 3D, regardless of software. Remember we talked about sculpting earlier? No, not that kind of sculpting. Digital sculpting. ZBrush is the industry standard for digital sculpting, and it's infamous for being so hard to learn because it has a really intimidating UI. But the reward is almost unlimited tools and possibilities. And the reality is that you only really need to know a few brushes to get started. Even professional artists today rarely use any more than 5 to 6 brushes per project. And just to clarify, when we are talking about sculpting, we aren't talking about sculpting pots with clay. We're actually talking about digital sculpting like this. All of these are created inside of ZBrush. You can even do texturing and lighting and rendering inside of ZBrush to showcase your models in the easiest way possible. ZBrush might not be free as Blender is, but it's not as expensive as Maya. $895 might be a bit steep for anyone, but it's a lifetime license. Pay once and create forever. And it is the industry standard for like character creation, so if that's something you really want to get into, ZBrush is definitely worth the investment. And you really should aim to learn ZBrush. But what about custom textures? Well, this is where Substance 3D Painter comes into the picture. Even though you can create really good looking textures inside of your 3D software, it can be really hard to get them to look exactly how you want them to. This is where Substance 3D Painter comes in. Not too long ago, you would use Photoshop to create custom textures. But Adobe has actually come out with a specialized software for creating textures for 3D models. It even comes with a library of materials. The library consists of many different materials like stone, metal, leather, and most of them even come with different states of decay. Those smart materials can be dragged and dropped onto your 3D model, easily give your model the look you want it to have. Or you can build the materials yourself from the bottom up using the layer system. If you already are familiar with Photoshop, then this should come as an easy task for you, as it works the exact same way. You might have heard about Unreal Engine before. It's been around for a while and it's owned by Epic, you know, the creator of Fortnite. Unreal Engine is where you would bring your 3D models and textures to make games with them. And no, you don't need to know how to code to make games in Unreal. Unreal has made it really easy by creating something called visual scripting. It's a node-based system, so it's plug and play. Since you can't actually make 3D models inside of Unreal, you need to know these other softwares. That doesn't mean you only can use your own models. Epic Game also has a huge library of everything you would want to create a game, from everything from stone assets and grass to characters and ready-made blueprints to create games with. It's absolutely not necessary to dive into Unreal to learn 3D, but if you want to make games, huge environments, virtual production, or just want a fast renderer to showcase your models, then Unreal is an absolutely amazing software. Especially considering the new technology Unreal comes with now, there's no doubt in my mind that Unreal is the software to use when it comes to game development. I would absolutely recommend you dive into Blender if you want to get started fast and for free. It's a great software and it covers all the basics. But if your aim is to get a job in the industry down the line, and you either have the possibility or the economy, I would absolutely recommend that you get started with some of the other softwares. Either way, 3D is 3D regardless of the software. If you know how to make a 3D model in one software, it's easy to learn how to do it in another. So these are the 5 software you need to know what does. You would still need to learn one or more of these to get into 3D, but at least now you know the difference between them. And hopefully this at least makes it a bit easier to get started. Thank you so much for watching. I know there's a ton of softwares out there, but at least these 5 are the ones that you really need to care about. And I really hope this made it a bit easier for you to pick which software to start with. So thank you, and I see you around. And if there was a lot of words in this video that didn't exactly sound familiar to you, I recommend that you check out this other video where I dive into the terminology of the 3D world.